If you saw the video I made on SpongeBob a little while ago, where I basically ranted on people ranting on the episodes past the movie, you already know how I feel about the show. And to those of you who have complimented me on that video, I appreciate your support. So thank you all, but I have to say, looking back, in my opinion, it's probably my worst video so far. I say that not only because all I really talk about is how much I love the show, but I don't really make any points to defend it, other than the annotation about a minute into the video. Plus, I pause a lot. So yeah, the last time I watched the video, I kinda cringed. So this is basically going to be a follow-up to my SpongeBob rant, and I'm going to talk about some of the reasons people have started hating the show and offer my rebuttal on each of them. So, without further ado, here we go. This is part 2 of my SpongeBob SquarePants rant. So basically, the reasons people have started to hate the show fall into 3 categories. Category 1, the plots. One thing people say is wrong with the show nowadays is that the storylines are no longer clever and have become too childish. Examples of episodes that fall into this category for a lot of people are Battle of Bikini Bottom, Band in Bikini Bottom, Waiting, and The Best Day Ever. Now, while I do agree that the first one on that list wasn't a good episode, I think it's kind of ridiculous that people say this show has childish plots. People who say this are basically implying that they think the show should appeal only to adults. And in my opinion, if that were the case, the show would be terrible. I can't really put my finger on why at this point, but if you're a huge SpongeBob fan like me, you can probably see where I'm coming from. My point is, in reality, the show is meant to appeal to adults and children. Category 2, the character change. Another problem people seem to have with the show these days is that the characters aren't likable anymore. SpongeBob has become too childish, Patrick is too dumb, Mr. Krabs is too cheap, Sandy's a scientist instead of an athlete, and Squidward has basically become the whipping mule of the show. In my opinion, the characters never actually changed. SpongeBob was always kind of annoying and childish, Patrick was always dumb, and Mr. Krabs is always cheap, although I will admit there were a couple episodes past Season 3 where I think his cheapness was taken a little too far, like Penny Foolish and The Scent of Money. As for Sandy, there might be more episodes these days that focus on her being a scientist, but she still does karate in the new episodes too. Remember Karate Island, Squid Defense, and The Best Day Ever? And to be honest, I have to say I actually appreciate Sandy's character more now than I did in the older episodes. In my opinion, in some of the episodes from Seasons 1 through 3, like Pressure and SpongeBob, Sandy, and the Worm, she came off as kind of boastful and self-centered. Like in Pressure, she even says land creatures are better than sea creatures. As for Squidward, wasn't he always the one to be sabotaged in the show? Remember the camping episode, Idiot Box, Just One Bite, and Jellyfishing? He didn't quote-unquote win any more often in Seasons 1 through 3 than he does in the newer episodes. Category 3, the gross-out gags. While I do kind of agree that there are some episodes past the movie that focus a little too much on gross humor, like To Love a Patty and The Splinter, this is another thing I think is a little ridiculous that people complain about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't some of the episodes from Seasons 1 through 3 have gross humor too? There's Survival of the Idiots, where Sandy constantly drools and SpongeBob and Patrick rip her fur off, Nasty Patty, which should be self-explanatory, and Doing Time, where Miss Puff rips the faces off those prison wardens. And there's Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4, where people go inside SpongeBob to saw his veins in half and stuff like that. And did people complain about that? No. Why? Because those episodes were before the movie? Something about that just doesn't add up. There's actually one more category, but I won't really go into it. I'll mention it anyway, though. The lack of humor. I can't really say anything about this, since what I think is funny and what other people think is funny are two different things. I will say, though, that in my opinion, the writers still come up with some pretty hilarious gags that make me wonder how they're able to do it. And even after almost 14 years, I think the writers are still really trying hard to come up with decent gags. So, if you still hate the new episodes after watching this video, that's fine. It's your opinion and I can't force you to change it. But, to the SpongeBob bashers, before you grab a gun and knife and try to hunt down the new writers for the quote-unquote crap they keep producing, ask yourselves this. If you were out for a show that had been running for years and years, would you be able to consistently make good episodes? I don't care if you're a really talented writer. More than likely, the answer's going to be no. This is MareBear69, I know, signing out.